So we put together a little footage for our neighbors to have a look at Hurricane Irma visiting Plantation by the Sea in Islamorada. See, the waves are starting to kick up on Saturday evening. It's cloudy, therefore it's dark, but as you can see, we're already collecting a little bit of debris. We went out there early to remove the debris so that that didn't become a problem in the parking lot later, and then just shot a little more footage of the storm sort of rolling in. The storm didn't seem to have a whole lot of rain where we were, but it did have a lot of wind. I panned to the palm trees often so you can get a little bit of a feel for the wind and how it was blowing, because you can't really tell that unless you're out there holding your tiny little iPhone. This is our neighbors to the north. Those trees are blowing. I thought that was kind of another good example of the winds is starting to pick up. It's not extraordinary wind. We get that sometimes on weekends and anytime I'm off of work and can't go boating. So we kind of kept track of a few splashes and seeing how the waves are working their way through the dock, just to give you an idea of what it was like to be out there. I didn't do anything incredibly stupid like try to walk to the end of the pier, but I wanted to kind of see how the waves were breaking through the decking. We learned a lot more about that later, but I thought this was a good study. Oh look, there's one of our little benches. I sure am going to miss that little bench. He's not with us anymore. Everybody should take a good look at those light posts too, so you can remember what they used to look like. This is what we first saw. This is water coming around behind the north building on our neighbor's property, but we're high and dry. We used this opportunity to learn a little bit about, I heard about this in Rita here, how the water sort of went around Plantation by the Sea. So this is some water that's starting to come onto their property, and yet we are still high and dry. Thank goodness. That's our neighbor's jetty with some waves splashing, and the old highway. Was checking on a neighbor's unit. They have a new impact door, so I was up there throughout the storm to kind of investigate the brand new door and make sure it was holding up nicely, and was able to grab a couple nice pictures of the pier and those sweet little benches. Sweet little benches. So you can kind of tell in the distance, it's getting a little grayer out there. Things are starting to get more exciting. Waves are breaking a little higher on the seawall. Oh, our fresh and clean pool with a couple swimmers in it. And this is when it all started to change. Waves were breaking in over the seawall at this point, and that front was just getting ready to make landfall. Sorry about the shaky footage, but as you can see, hopefully I panned to the trees in this segment. It is, yes, goodness, it is a little windy and a little hard to hold a camera. Nice clean pool. So nice. So clean. So we kept an eye out as nightfall came, and this is what you can see. What you're looking at there is the waves. They're actually all the way up the seawall, which is not something that we've seen here, on an average weekend. And the waves are starting to break over. This is allowing a little bit more debris, and you see some of the rocks from the seawall are now on the pool deck. Just the little rocks. Just checking it out next door, they had much more of a river running through their the north building behind us here. And then our sea walls splashy and a lot of water coming onto the pool deck all the way to the pool coping. So we took the opportunity to do another sweep of debris to try to make sure there's less and less stuff banging against the cars, if it will come to that. At this time we really weren't sure. And then you just start to see some of the first water making its way over the pool deck and actually into the parking lot. Yeah. You can tell the trees there. You can see the wind blowing in the trees. And we were going behind the south building to have a look at what was going on back there. Here we are back on the pool deck under the north building. I don't know if anybody's seen a lot of this kind of footage before here at Plantation by the Sea, but now you see more and more of the seawall, some of which has actually made its way into the parking lot. So we tried to keep an eye on the how much water was coming into the parking lot, and it was starting to be like a fair amount. We were checking hour after hour, starting to get a little busy right there. More rocks from the seawall in the parking lot, more rocks from the seawall on the pool deck, and those waves in the background just crashing over the seawall. We checked on cars, have a look around, make sure that things weren't flooded. Checked on debris, tried to get what we could out of the way for the safety of the vehicles. And there you see our parking lot filling up with water, and behind the building is now filling up with water. I think we all know what that is. We started to see more and more of that as the evening progressed. And at this point, the parking lot is full of water except to the parking spots under the building. And here we come again with these beautiful waves breaking on the pool deck. Collecting a little seaweed against the fence, and later we'll find that some hurricane shutters break free, and when that happens it really causes the water to build up. We strapped those gates back so we had flow coming through rather than stopping, collecting, and pushing against the fence in hopes that maybe the fence wouldn't give way. So this is from my guest bedroom unit through my hurricane shutter. Sorry for the lack of clarity, but you see those waves out there in the very distance, and you can kind of see how the wind is really picking up, and it's not moving in exactly just one direction, but it's kind of gusting and a little bit blustery. Panning over, you can see the giant amount of seaweed that's now against the pool fence, and that gate also propped open, and the amount of water and muck that is coming into the parking lot. It goes without saying, because you guys, some of the people who are watching this live here, that you know what our bathrooms and our community room look like at this point. This is when it really started getting real. That is a massive salt spray. It's not even raining. This is our parking lot. You can see, you can't see the parking bumpers or the landscaping, the pink landscaping. And then we came downstairs to find this. Unfortunately, our tiebacks on the gate had broken loose. And you can kind of tell if you look past just the waves, the wind and the salt that's whipping through the buildings. This started to get kind of exciting at this point. It's a fair amount of ocean cruising through what has now been dubbed as Plantation in the Sea. So there's a little snippet. That's 3 pieces of our pier, however wide the pier is, by 12 or 14 foot chunks leaning against the fence. This was a little bit later, after some of the excitement, when things had calmed down a bit. We took this footage, may not be in perfect order, but we were trying to keep track of, what sort of happened. All of the furniture blew around and against the fence. Still a fair amount of wind, but a little bit less water. checking on another unit, again with the impact glass. Looked nice. Oh, looky there. That's the pier. That's what was leaning against the fence until the fence gave way and the pier pieces floated through the parking lot. But the vehicles seem to be safe. Water's down, so it's not high tide anymore, but as you can see, the wind is incredible. Our neighbors, Marina, did not fare any better than we did. There's our community garden, and this is a place that used to be covered with pavers where the grill and the picnic table once sat. Those pavers are currently located behind the north building. So when the pavers went, a lot of the P-rock went, so it wrapped around the building and poured into the sidewalks behind the community room and the parking spots. This is our neighbor's fence in our yard, and that's the area where I had those trees blowing in the wind earlier. There are no trees left now. Seaweed pushed up all the way behind the building. That's actually closer to the road that it made it that far. And miscellaneous debris and pavers. There's more of our pavers. And there's more of our neighbor's trees. And there's some of the pier. That's in the south building. Made it all the way there, but didn't seem to bounce off of any cars. This is right at the front gate. Hey, Lucy. Lucy's looking at the water. And this is after the fact, as the water's starting to sort of drain out from the front gate area. There's our grassy knoll with our landscape lighting. And a couple more pieces of the pier all the way up to almost to the office. Seaweed, plenty of seaweed. Oh, yeah, there's some more seaweed. It's starting to smell really good, by the way. And there's the grassy knoll from above. And there's the pier from afar. And there's the palm trees. And some more of the rock that poured from around the south building into the parking lots. Oh, our little pier. The pilings are still there. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It started getting pretty exciting when the pieces of the pier were floating by, but it got real exciting when we saw our first couple of pilings float by. That's the community room. I think it had about 8 inches. Our door gave way. We have some things we'll work on next time. We'll try to do differently. That's our rock from the, and there's more of it at the community room door from the seawall that is just all over the pool deck in huge piles. There's that piece of shutter that helped the water rise. Lamppost took a fair beating. I think we'll do something different for the future. Some nice footage. Looks like parking bumpers got blown around too. Our neighbors did not fare any better than we did. In fact, I would say that it's definitely worse. You'll see that pavilion. It lost its roof before it was all said and done. This is looking out my master bedroom, so I was kind of keeping an eye on how much water we had versus how much water they had. And we did fare a good bit better. Those trees are looking a little crispy these days, but they made it. Unlike those ones that are laying there. Those are the trees I took a picture of earlier, or video of earlier. So we've got some more rain coming in. The rain really was something of a blessing. It was the wind that was the problem. We had some difficulties with our oceanfront units and the sliding glass doors, not because there was so much rain, so much as the wind kept pushing the rain under the sliding glass doors in the track. I have a super new view of the ocean from Unit 222. You can start to see the pool coping is starting to surface again. It's no longer all the way underwater. Still a little bit of water pouring into the parking lot, but at this point the fence hadn't given way. This footage is not in perfect order, but this is a bunch of seaweed that's piled up against well, my window for one that I'm shooting out of, and the pool fencing.
Palm trees are holding up. Brandy had mentioned that the palm trees are amazing. Some garbage in the parking lot. So if you look that way in the distance, you can see the waves breaking over the riprap seawall. And the parts of our dock that we had here earlier aren't even present.
It's a pretty strong storm. I would say it certainly didn't disappoint. We just snapped some pictures of different things along the way here just to see what was happening. Here comes some of that pier deck that we talked about. And more pier deck. Our plants have taken quite a beating. We've got them all cut back and tried to water them down a little bit. More pier deck piling up against the fence. Neighbor check. Trees looking a little more tired. Yep, those nice little trees, buttonwoods laying on the ground. Amazing view of the ocean. I can also see their pier from here, or their marina from here. Now, we keep, panning through the trees so you can understand the wind factor. But you can see that the water is lower because when you start to see the landscaping resurfacing. Snapped a bunch of pictures, lots of pictures of the pier, lots of video of the pieces of the pier. Shot through a rainy window, possibly a salty lens or two. At this point you can see that the pool fence gave way, and this is where the 3 or so chunks of pier are going to begin floating through the parking lot. A couple more pieces stayed put. Parking bumpers and P-rock everywhere. But a really great opportunity to rebuild a pier. It's almost like starting from scratch. Our neighbor's fence, now you see that pavilion fell. It used to be there. Now it's in a pile of weeds, seaweed behind the north building. And then this was just a few shots of the aftermath when the water left what it left us with. The cleanup has been epic. I think our storm drains need a little extra work. Oh, look, I did a panoramic of the neighbors. We also had to head out and cruise around town, check on a few job sites, so I snapped a few pictures. This is just pictures like of along the old road. That's Sea Oats Beach at mile marker 74-ish. That's Mr. Lobster, whose lobster traps are nowhere to be found. Actually, they're in that basin. We saw a lot of boats on land. This is the sand from Sea Oats Beach that they pulled up to clear the road. It's a neighborhood around 74 whose street's completely flooded out. You can't get to it. Habano's Restaurant. Calusa Cove Marina. Behind Calusa Cove Marina, that's Habano's from the back also. They took a pretty good beating but held up. I always wondered what they made that berm on Sea Oats Beach out of. That's the berm. Here's some more boats on land. We saw a lot of that. That's why our cell phones don't work. That came off of the cell tower. We're not the only people that lost all their pier decking. This is actually a sailboat in a house, in a yard. We saw some of this. Kind of self-explanatory. The highway was a mess. Most of you will recognize what that is. This is at 84 on Winley Key. Quite the mess. Took a couple quick snaps of what had blown up onto the road. This isn't what's been cleaned up. This is what's blown up. Like that boat. It looks like somebody might have snagged that engine. This is getting closer to home. This is Seabreeze and San Pedro trailer parks. They took a beating. Seaweed everywhere. You've probably seen footage of this from places that has TV because they had like 8 news crews at San Pedro. Here's our sweet little buildings. The office had a little problem. Smelled really good in there. We got that taken care of quickly. The community room, ta-da! Looks a lot different than that earlier photo. Again, epic cleanup. This is how we found some of the shutters blown up onto the seawall rocks against the building. Seawall rocks in the planters. Seawall rocks in every planter. The chairs were all in the community room, but we pulled them out and pressure cleaned them. This is our pool. There's actually fish in it at this time. Stuff from the gym room, stuff from the pool room. Oh, and some rocks from the seawall in the planter. You can see the pool, it's disgusting. This is how much of that fill washed around. That's in front of the bathroom doors. Got the pool room emptied out. Water was probably 3 or more feet high in there because it didn't have anywhere to flow away. That's in front of the bathrooms again. That's how much fill had washed in. It's in the bathrooms. Disgusting. And that's our bench. That's the one we still have. P-rock in the parking lot. Sand in the parking lot. Mud in the parking lot. Salt water in the parking lot. There were actually shrimp on the drains. The grates to the drains had shrimp. Rocco's new view from my balcony. No trees. After the cleanup, we put things back and got them in air conditioning to try to get them put back together as much as possible. At least air conditioned. I'm afraid the refrigerator actually didn't make it. We tried, but it didn't last. Lawn furniture drying after the cleaning. Our pier. More of the pool deck cleanup effort. And then the pool. That was quite the job. We had to get the pool pumped out. And then we actually refilled it with clean ocean water from high tide. Gym equipment. A lot of that didn't make it. That one bench. In front of the gym, just debris. We did take down those shutters. They didn't blow down. We were trying to get light in there. That's the south building, how much fill. And the south building's fence, the neighbor's fence. And the neighbor's fence. Just the amount of garbage that's in the parking lot that we've been cleaning up. Some more down fence. Under the fence is some disgusting seaweed. It's really smelling good. That's up against the office, the gate and fence area up there, how much seaweed and debris pushed up there. This is along the north building, how much seaweed's pushed up there. This is close to the gate area. Saw plenty of that. Took some time to get all those pieces of the pier moved. This is an average storage unit. This one belongs to the HOA, but we were just taking pictures of how much muck made it into the storage unit, how much P-rock made it into the parking lot, and it was a fair amount. Okay, so what you see here, it's hard to tell, but that's about a foot, maybe 2 feet worth of fill that worked its way around the building. The kayak racks are half buried. The gate of the fence, you can tell there how much fill's actually made its way around. Those pavers we spoke of earlier. The windows did really hold up nicely. We have some things to think about regarding the shutters. And the purpose of this video is not just entertainment, but we've learned a lot from the storm. We kept an eye out. We know what things we need to do differently in the future. We know what things we need to do to be more prepared for storms at Plantation by the Sea. So we hope you have learned something from this footage. We feel like we have. We're going to get together and decide what we need to do to improve the property to even have less damage in the future. So thanks for watching. That's all, folks.